The grave in the dust. The sky was dark, no stars, only red clouds and falling ash. The air smelled like burned metal. Scifi, an alien mother with soft gray skin and glowing blue eyes, knelt in the dirt. Her long claws trembled as she placed a small stone on top of the tiny grave. It wasn't much, just a shallow patch of dry ground covered in dust, but it was all she had. "This is where I leave you, my little one," she whispered in her language. Her voice cracked with pain. "Forgive me." Her daughter, barely a year old, had vanished during the chaos. The human soldiers had attacked the colony. Screams, fire, confusion, and then silence. When it was over, the only thing left was a small burned blanket half buried in the rubble. Scifi had searched for days. Her claws were bloody, her feet broken, but no sign of the child. No sound, no warmth, nothing. Everyone told her the same thing. "Your baby is gone. Too small to survive alone." The humans took her, or worse, but she couldn't accept it. So she made the grave. She wanted to believe her daughter's spirit would rest there. She wanted to say goodbye, even if she didn't truly believe it. A cold wind blew across the empty land. Her long hair flowed behind her like smoke. She didn't cry loudly. Her kind never did. But her eyes were wet. Her chest ached. Inside her, something had broken. She stood up slowly, one hand still resting on the stone. "Sleep now. Wherever you are." She turned to leave. She never saw the small footprints leading away from the site, or the thin trail of blood. She didn't know her daughter had crawled away after the blast, still alive, still breathing. And she had no idea a human had found her. Miles away, in the broken remains of an old research lab, a man named Jack knelt by a small fire. He was tall, rough-looking, with short brown hair and deep scars on his arms. His clothes were torn. His boots were falling apart. He was a former soldier, now alone, wandering the dead planet. In his arms, wrapped in a piece of blanket, was something small, something that moved. A baby. Not human. Alien. She had strange purple markings on her forehead and tiny claws like her mother. Her skin was pale and thin, almost see-through. She looked weak, too weak to cry. Jack held her gently, giving her small drops of warm water with a syringe. "Easy now. There you go," he said softly. He didn't know why he had saved her. Maybe because he was tired of watching things die. Maybe because the child had looked at him, eyes wide, not with fear, but with hope. He had found her under rubble, barely alive. She had a cut on her leg and was shivering. She had reached up and touched. His face, he could have walked away. He didn't. Now he was feeding her, caring for her, protecting her. "This war's over," he muttered. "For me it is." He looked down at the child. "Let them call me a traitor. You're just a baby." The baby blinked up at him, weak but alive. Back at the grave, Scifi walked away into the dust, her hands clenched. Her wings, once proud and wide, hung low. She had nothing now. No family, no home. Just silence, but the planet wasn't done yet. Not with her, and not with her child. Far above, hidden satellites recorded movement, and far below, in an old cave, a message beacon blinked once, then died. Someone had noticed the human carrying an alien child, and someone did not like it. The night was cold and bitter. Even the broken trees seemed to shiver in the wind. Scifi stood at the edge of the crater where her village once existed. All that remained was ash, cracked stone, and the echo of screams long gone. Her arms hung by her sides, empty. Her chest felt like a hollow shell. She had made the grave. She had said goodbye. But something inside her still screamed, "No. She's not gone. Not truly." The stars above flickered like the eyes of watching ghosts. She looked up and whispered, "If any God is listening, Eddie, please don't let her last cry be alone." And that cry, someone had heard it, far from Sirea's broken world, in a forgotten research shelter dug deep into the ground. The soft hum of an old heater echoed. Jack sat cross-legged, gently rocking the alien child in his arms. The little one, he'd started calling her Star, was wrapped in cloth from his old jacket. Her skin had warmed up. Her breathing was steadier now, but tonight, she was restless. She let out a weak sound, a soft, short cry. Jack froze. This was different. This wasn't hunger. It wasn't pain. It was like grief. He leaned in close. Shh, shh, I've got you. You're safe. But the little girl kept making that tiny sound, reaching her little fingers out toward the cracked ceiling as if calling for something. Someone, not there. Jack stared at her. He'd seen battlefield wounds. He'd heard the last gasps of dying men. But this? A child reaching through emptiness for her mother. It cracked something in him. I don't know where your mother is, he whispered. But I swear, if she's still alive, I'll find her. He stood and wrapped the child tight. He knew the colony maps. He knew the routes humans had used during the assault. If her mother was alive, she'd be somewhere nearby. And if she had made a grave, then she must believe her daughter is dead. He looked down at the tiny face resting on his chest. No, not anymore. Sireia sat by the grave again. She didn't remember walking back. She didn't remember sitting down. Her body moved without her mind now. She stared at the stone. Her hands moved to trace the carved mark, her daughter's name written in the old tongue. But her hand stopped. The mark was smeared, wiped. She blinked, looked closer. A small mark. A finger. Tiny. Dragged across the dirt. Her heart skipped. No, she whispered. She crawled around the grave, claws digging in. She sniffed. A scent, old, but not dead, and not hers. A faint trail of footprints. Tiny footprints. Heading away from the grave. Jack followed the trail of destruction left from the war. Burned vehicles, crushed homes. But among it all, he saw something new. Alien symbols marked in chalk on rocks, trees, walls, warning signs, meant for their kind. But one symbol kept repeating, a spiral with 2 small dots. He had seen it on the blanket the child was wrapped in, her clan's symbol, and it meant one thing, mourning. Jack followed the signs, step by step, mile by mile. The baby stirred in his arms but didn't cry again, as if she knew something had changed, as if she felt the pull of her mother. Sireia ran, her heart thundered, her legs ached. She didn't care. She followed the prints even though the wind had nearly erased them. She followed her sense, her instincts, her pain. It pulled her like a thread woven through her bones, and suddenly, something new. A footprint. Human. Large. Heavy. Deep. Not an enemy patrol, she thought. She, too alone. Too light. She felt heat rise in her chest. A human had her child. Was she captured? Used as bait? Or worse? But her mother's heart whispered another thought. If she was harmed, why would someone carry her away from death? Jack saw the cliff up ahead. If he climbed it, he could get a better view. The signals were dead out here, no working tech. But instinct told him he was close. He climbed, one hand around the rock, the other holding the baby tight. At the top he stood looking over the valley. And he wasn't alone. Across from him, not 50 meters away, a figure appeared, running through the dust. A tall shape, glowing blue eyes. Sireia. She stopped. Jack froze. They stared at each other. No words, no movement. Then, suddenly, the child in Jack's arms reached out. A soft cry left her lips, a familiar cry, like a whisper through time. Sireia dropped to her knees, gasping. My baby. The wind carried no sound, except the quiet breath of a child and the heartbeat of a mother who had stopped breathing the moment she saw her. Soraya couldn't move. Her knees sank into the dust, her hands trembling. Her eyes locked on the small bundle in the human's arms. She had imagined this moment in dreams, but those dreams always ended in pain. Now, the cry was real. The tiny voice was not her imagination, it was her daughter. Alive. Not ashes. Not buried. Alive. But in the arms of a human. Her heart twisted. Humans had taken everything from her. Her clan, her mate, her home. They had rained fire on their villages. She had sworn to never trust their kind again, and yet, this man was holding her daughter like something fragile, not like a trophy, not like a weapon, like something precious. Jack didn't move either. He saw the pain in her face. He saw her confusion and her rage. She looked like she was ready to leap and tear him apart, but she didn't. Because the child, her child, reached again. Not toward her, but between them, as if to say, "Come together." Jack took a slow breath. He had trained for war, for silence, for survival. Not for this. He raised the child gently, letting the alien woman see the baby's face. "No weapons," he said, holding up his other hand. Soraya hissed softly at his voice. Harsh. Human. Wrong. But not angry. Not proud. Just tired. He walked, slowly toward her. Every step felt like 1,000 years. When he was close enough, he knelt and placed the child on the ground between them, wrapped in the torn cloth, eyes open, reaching. Then he stepped back. Soraya didn't move. She stared at the child, the colors on her forehead, the scar on her leg, the same little fingers she had kissed every night. Tears rose again. This time she didn't stop them. She dropped to all fours and crawled forward, shaking, as if afraid the baby might vanish if she moved too fast. When she touched her daughter, the baby giggled, and Soraya broke. She pulled her child into her arms, pressed her against her chest, and sobbed in silence. Her claws gently touched the child's cheeks, arms, back, as if confirming she was real. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Jack stayed back. He watched. He felt like an intruder in something sacred, but he didn't leave. Part of him expected the alien mother to take the child and vanish, or worse, to turn and kill him. But after minutes passed, Soraya looked up. Her eyes were filled with pain, but also something else, something soft. Not trust, not yet, but not hate either. She looked at Jack and asked, her voice hoarse, "Why?" Just one word. He didn't answer right away. Then he sat down on the ground, not close, but not far. "I found her under rubble," he said quietly. "She was cold, bleeding. No one else came. I couldn't leave her." He stared at the dirt. "I was tired of killing." Soraya stared at him. A human soldier who had shown mercy? It didn't make sense. Her kind taught that humans only destroyed. They didn't save. But here he was, skin covered in old wounds, hands scarred. Yet his arms had carried her child through snow and death, and the baby had lived because of him. She looked at her daughter again, now sleeping softly against her shoulder. Maybe the war hadn't ended. But this moment, this was not war. Night came quickly. They stayed in the ruins. Soraya lit a small fire with her own tools. Jack offered a thermal blanket. She took it without a word. They didn't speak much, but they shared food. They took turns watching the fire, and when the baby cried in the night, both of them reached out, their hands touched. They pulled back quickly, but in that small second, something passed between them. Not words, not peace, but understanding. Morning. Light broke over the dusty hills. Soraya looked at the human. "You fed her?" He nodded. "Had to guess. She doesn't like human milk. I boiled dried roots, used med supplies, kept her warm." She was silent for a moment. Then, She lived. Because of you. Jack said nothing, but inside something warmed. She wasn't thanking him, but she wasn't blaming him either. It was enough. The child opened her eyes and reached toward Jack. Siraya watched carefully. The baby cooed when Jack took her gently. Siraya did not stop him. Jack smiled. She's strong. Siraya nodded slowly. Like her father. Jack looked up. He's gone? She turned her face. Long ago. Human weapons. Silence again. Jack whispered. I'm sorry. Siraya didn't reply. But she didn't walk away either. Enemies by blood. Bound by a child. Neither had planned for this. But now the warmth of one helpless life had brought two wounded hearts to the same fire. Not friends. Not yet. But no longer enemies. The ruins of the old city were silent. Cracked towers leaned like broken bones and vines twisted around collapsed steel. Wind howled through shattered windows like whispers of ghosts. Jack walked carefully, his boots crunching over debris. The alien child, now snug in a sling across his chest, peeked out with curious eyes. Her tiny hand clutched his shirt. She didn't cry. She only watched, quiet and alert, like she was remembering a world she had never understood. Behind them, Siraya followed. She kept her distance, eyes always scanning. She didn't trust Jack, not completely, but she no longer watched him like an enemy. More like a question she hadn't yet answered. We shouldn't be here long, she said quietly, glancing at the dark windows above. These ruins are cursed. Jack didn't respond right away. He had seen this place before. Not in life, but in nightmares. Cursed with memory. He finally muttered. And blood. 3 months ago, this city had been full of life. Alien traders, families, children. It had been a place of color and peace. Then the war came. Jack had been part of the team sent to clear high-threat zones. They were told this city was hiding weapons, but all they found were frightened faces and old technology. Still, orders were orders, and fire fell. Jack had walked these same streets then, helmet on, weapon ready. But now, walking as a man, not a soldier, he saw what he had missed: a broken doll, a child's shoe, an alien family photo half burned in the dust. Ghosts. Not just of the aliens, but of himself. The man he had been. Siraya suddenly stopped. She knelt and brushed away some ash from the base of a wall. Symbols were carved there, faded but clear too. Her eyes, family marks, her people's writing. This was my cousin's home, she said. Jack stepped closer. The baby let out a soft hum, watching the symbols. Siraya touched the stone. Her daughter played with mine, before the fire. She didn't cry, but her fingers trembled as she read each name. Then she looked up. They all died here, except my daughter. Her voice cracked. Jack placed a hand on the nearby wall but said nothing. The air between them was heavy. Not just with dust, but with guilt. Both of them were carrying it. Suddenly the baby let out a sharp cry. Not from hunger, from fear. Siraya's eyes narrowed. Her ears twitched. She grabbed her spear from her back. Jack spun. Out of the shadows came movement. 3 tall figures with thick armor and curved blades. Scavengers, not soldiers, not rebels, just killers. They hunted ruins for loot, and sometimes for lives. They saw the child first, then the human, then the alien mother, and they grinned. A human protecting alien spawn? One hissed. You've lost your mind. Jack didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of the child and drew his rusted knife. Siraya moved beside him, not behind, beside. The fight was fast and brutal. One scavenger lunged at Jack. He ducked, cut the man's leg and slammed him against the wall. Siraya spun her spear with grace, slicing through another's armor and kicking him into the dirt. The last one reached for the child, until Jack tackled him with a roar, driving the blade. Deep. Then silence. 3 bodies lay broken. Jack bled from his arm. Sciria had a cut across her leg. But the child? Safe. Jack fell to one knee, panting. Sciria stood over him. He looked up, waiting for a word. Instead, she knelt and tore part of her sleeve to wrap his wound. He stared. She didn't speak, just worked, like a soldier treating another soldier. Later, they sat by a fire in the heart of the ruined city. The baby slept soundly in a basket of cloth and leaves. Sciria stared at the flames. "Why do you fight so hard for her?" Jack poked the fire gently. "Because no one fought for me." Sciria glanced at him. He explained, voice low. "I was born during the human wars on Earth. My mother died. My father drank. No one cared. So I joined the army. I was good at fighting, good at surviving, but never at feeling." He looked at the child, her tiny hands rising with each breath. Until her. Sciria said nothing, then whispered, "I hated your kind." Jack nodded. "You should have." "But now," her eyes blinked slowly, "I'm confused." Jack smiled faintly. "Good. That means you're healing." As the fire cracked, Sciria slowly leaned back against the broken wall. The cold wind couldn't reach them here. She looked at the human man, his tired eyes watching over the child like a father, and something inside her shifted. The ghosts were still here. But maybe not. All of them were angry anymore. Morning came quietly. The sun was pale, hidden behind gray clouds. The ruins looked softer under the gentle light, but the pain they held hadn't faded. Jack sat beside the fire, feeding the sleeping child drops of warm root milk with a spoon. He'd carved from scrap. Sciria watched from a short distance. Her long arms rested on her knees, and her eyes stayed locked on her daughter's face. Every breath the child took was like a heartbeat inside Siria's chest. Alive. Safe. Because of him. But the question still burned in her mind. Why? She had asked it once already. Now she needed the full truth. She stood up and walked to Jack without a word. Sat down across from him. The child, still wrapped in his jacket, slept soundly beside the fire. "Tell me," Sciria said quietly, her voice almost lost in the wind. "When did you first see her?" Jack didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on the fire. "The day after your colony fell," he said. "I was walking away from the drop zone. Orders were over. Everyone was heading back. I heard a noise under the rubble. A weak cry, like someone breathing their last breath." He swallowed hard. "I moved some metal. And there she was. Bloody. Barely moving. I thought she was dead." Sciria closed her eyes for a moment. Jack's voice continued, slower, now like the words hurt to say. "I should have called it in. Should have left her, but I couldn't. I don't know why." He looked up at her finally. "Maybe because I was tired of being told who to shoot and who to save." Sciria was silent, not angry, not shocked, but still. "You were one of them," she said. "The soldiers who attacked?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, I was." She looked at him like a wound she couldn't touch, her claws dug lightly into the dirt. "And you killed people like me?" He nodded again. "Yes." The words hung between them like broken glass. She didn't strike him, didn't scream. Instead, she whispered, "So why are you not the same as them now?" Jack ran a hand through his dusty hair. "I don't know. Maybe because I lost someone too." Sciria blinked. "A child?" He nodded slowly. "A girl. Not mine by blood. My best friend's daughter. I was supposed to bring her back to Earth. I failed. Ship was shot down. I lived. She didn't." He didn't cry, but the pain in his voice was enough. "After that, I swore no more innocent blood, no more quiet deaths." He pointed to the child. "She didn't deserve to die in silence, alone." The wind picked up slightly. Scirea touched her daughter's cheek, feeling the warmth return. "I buried her," she said. "Or thought I did. That grave. I sang over it. Begged the gods to hear me, but they didn't. Or so I thought." Jack looked at her. "Maybe they did," he said. "They just sent the wrong hands." Cirea's lips curved slightly, just barely. It wasn't a smile. More like a tired acceptance. "I don't know what to think anymore," Jack leaned back. "Neither do I, but this—" He looked at the baby. "This is the only part that feels right." They sat in silence. Then Cirea asked the one question she had buried deeper than all the others. "Did she cry for me?" Jack paused. "Yes," he said. "Every time she woke up. Even when she didn't have the strength, she still tried. Reaching, like she was calling someone." Cirea pressed her hand to her mouth. Her chest shuddered, but she didn't make a sound. Her whole body trembled. She remembered me. She never forgot. Later that day, they moved out of the city. The scavengers might return. Jack led the way through the narrow canyon, guiding them toward an old observation tower still standing in the rocks. At the top, they could scan for signals. Maybe find help. Maybe not. Cirea carried her daughter now. The child clung to her tightly, resting her head on her mother's shoulder as if no time had passed. As they climbed the final steps, Cirea turned to Jack. "I don't know what to call you," she said. He smirked. "Jack works." "No," she said, "not name, I mean, you saved my daughter, cared for her, gave your warmth, your food, your time. In my culture, that means something." He looked at her, confused. She looked ahead, not facing him. "It means you are part of her life now, whether I like it or not." Jack said nothing. Then, "Do you like it?" She didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. At the top of the tower, the wind was strong. The scanner crackled with static. Cirea placed her hand on the cold metal. "If someone's listening," she whispered, "bring peace. Just for her." Jack stood beside her, quiet. He didn't know what tomorrow held. But right now, a war-born soldier and a grieving alien mother stood side by side, not enemies but guardians, bound by a child who had refused to die. The tower stood like a lonely tooth in the rocks, tall, cracked, half-eaten by vines. It had once been an alien signal, post part of a communication network long forgotten. Now it was a ruin surrounded by silence with only the sound of wind scratching through broken glass. Cirea adjusted the cloth sling holding her daughter against her chest. The child slept peacefully, warmed by her mother's heartbeat. Jack stood a few steps away, setting up the portable scanner he had found among the wreckage. He had patched it together with wire and parts from his old med kit. "Do you think it still works?" she asked softly. Jack didn't look up. Only one way to find out. He hit the switch. The machine buzzed to life, flickering, coughing. Sparks. Then to their surprise, it beeped, not just once, but steady, regular. A signal was out there. Someone was listening. Jack fine-tuned the dial. A voice came through, choppy and broken. "Sector 6, scan, confirm, then static." Jack leaned closer. "This is ex-field medic Jack Carter. I have a child, alien-born, found after strike. She is alive and safe. I'm not requesting rescue, only that her identity be known. Anyone searching for her, I need a meeting." He let go of the button, then silence. For several minutes, no response. Cirea gripped the sling tighter. Then finally, confirmed. Meet point set. 1 day. Grid marker. 47 Delta. No weapons. Jack and Cirea exchanged a look. This was it. By the next morning, they were on the move again. The child, now healthier, clapped her hands softly in rhythm with the bumpy ride. Jack had built a small sled from scrap, attaching it behind him as they crossed the dusty ridge. The baby rode it comfortably, covered in warm cloth. Cirea walked beside her, alert, her spear strapped tight. Jack held a small white cloth high on a stick, a sign of no threat. Cirea did the same with her clan's symbol drawn in paint made from desert moss. This was sacred ground now. Both sides had lost. No one came here unless there was a reason, and this was the most important reason of all. By midday, they reached the old meeting place, a round stone platform in the center of a dried-out lake. Blackened trees stood like thin statues all around. There was no cover, no place to hide. It was meant to show peace, or surrender. Sciria took a slow breath. "I buried her near here," she said suddenly, voice low. "I thought she died where no one would find her, but you were close." Jack looked around. "Maybe we were meant to meet. Even through war." They stood in silence. Then movement caught their eyes. Figures were approaching. From the west came 3 alien riders, tall, lean, in gray armor with green glass visors. The lead one carried a long staff with a silver disc, a symbol of truth. From the east, a human craft hovered low, then landed. A single man stepped out, unarmed, in a pale blue uniform. Medical branch. Peace envoy. 2 different sides. 1, child in the middle. The alien envoy removed her helmet. She was older than Sciria, with sharp silver markings on her cheekbones and kind, serious eyes. She walked straight to Sciria and stopped. "Sciria of Clan Kalureth," she said formally. "We received your blood code. We feared you were lost." "I was," Sciria answered quietly, until he brought her back. The envoy looked at the child, now awake and smiling up from the sled. Her eyes widened. "That is, your daughter?" Sciria nodded. "Her name is Scifi." The human envoy knelt beside the sled. "We cross-referenced genetic markers from the soldier's report. This child survived the strike by miracle." "No," Sciria said. "Not a miracle." She looked at Jack. He saved her. Jack didn't speak. He just stared at the child, Scifi, who now sat between 2 worlds, unaware of the weight she carried. The alien envoy turned to Jack. "You were one of the attackers?" He nodded slowly. "I see," the envoy said. "And yet, you chose to protect her, even feed her. That is not common among your kind." Jack met her gaze. "It should be," the 2 envoys discussed quietly. Protocols, clan rights, cross-species, interaction. Then they gave a choice. The child could return to Siria's clan, but she would carry the memory of the human who saved her. Jack would be allowed to go free, untouched. A rare mercy, but then the unexpected happened. Scifi reached out. Her tiny hand tugged Jack's sleeve. Then she looked up at Sciria and made a soft sound. "Pa." Sciria froze. So did the envoys. It was the first time the child had ever tried to speak. And that word, whatever it meant, was for him. Sciria knelt beside her daughter, touched her cheek. "She sees you as more than a protector." Jack didn't move. Sciria looked at the envoys. She will not understand being taken from him now. She slept in his arms, learned his scent, his warmth, his face. The alien envoy blinked. "Then what do you propose?" Sciria stood and spoke with quiet strength. "He stays with us. Not as prisoner, not as enemy, but as part of her circle." Everyone went still. Jack whispered, "Are you sure?" She nodded. "She already chose you. I am only listening." In that empty lake bed surrounded by broken trees and the ghosts of war, an alien mother and a human soldier made something rare. Peace. Not signed in ink, but sealed by a child's smile. The sun was setting low across the broken lake bed, painting everything gold and crimson. The wind was gentle now, no longer screaming through ruins or howling with the weight of sorrow. It felt quiet, soft, like a new beginning. Jack sat on a flat stone, his eyes on the little alien girl playing nearby. She chased dust motes through the air, giggling softly, her claws curled around a round pebble she had decided was her new treasure. Her laughter echoed, innocent and light. Siraya stood a few steps away, watching them both. Her face was calm, but inside her heart beat with a strange mix of fear and hope. Days had passed since the meeting. No war patrols came. No soldiers dragged Jack away. No one challenged Siraya's decision, because something had changed. And not just in the lake bed, but in them. After the envoys left, Siraya and Jack had returned to the tower ruins. There they built shelter from salvaged scraps, not permanent but strong enough for the nights. Jack hunted small game. Siraya gathered roots and herbs. Together they made food, built fire, and took turns keeping watch. They said little at first. Words still felt like enemies. But slowly, they began to trust the silence between them. And the child, Selai, grew stronger each day. She learned to walk on shaky legs. She learned to laugh again. And she never stopped reaching for Jack. Every time he moved too far, she cried out. Not in fear, but like someone calling home. One night under the stars, Siraya finally broke the silence. My people still believe humans only know how to destroy. Jack stared into the fire. They're not wrong. But not all destroy, she said, glancing at him. Some stay. Some protect. Jack smiled, a tired smile. War teaches us how to break. Maybe peace teaches us how to fix. Siraya nodded slowly. My daughter trusts you, she said. And I trust her. It was the first time she said that out loud. She didn't take it back. They began to move as a small family. Jack started teaching Selai human words. Siraya taught her ancient chants and songs. The child repeated both with equal joy, unaware that her voice was healing two broken worlds. One night, Siraya placed a handmade necklace of woven vines and stones around Jack's neck. It's what we give those who are claimed by the clan, she said simply. Jack looked at it with confusion. Claimed? It means you are no longer outsider, she said. It means you belong. Jack blinked. For the first time in his life, someone had said those words to him. Not for duty, not for service, but for simply being who he was. On a clear morning, Siraya took Jack to the place where she had buried the Yar. Small, false grave, it was still there. A quiet patch of dust with a stone on top, but now the air around it felt lighter. She didn't weep this time. She simply bent down, touched the stone, and whispered, "Thank you for guarding her until he found her." Then she stood, took her daughter's hand, and walked away. Jack followed beside them. No more ghosts, only memories. Later they sat on a ridge watching the sunrise. Selai curled between them, half asleep. Siraya turned to Jack. You said once that no one fought for you. Jack nodded. She reached out and gently touched his hand. Well, she did. Jack looked at the sleeping child. Her tiny chest rose and fell. Her face was peaceful. She brought us together, he said softly. Siraya smiled. She saved us, both. They sat there in silence, watching the light grow. And so the story ended not with a battle or a rescue or a death, but with a human and an alien mother sitting side by side, their child asleep between them. No flags, no armies, just warmth and a bond stronger than war. They were no longer enemies. They were something else now. Family.